Then I will call us to order at 7:02 p.m. And
Commissioner Cinto is on the call in too. You can't see him, but I can see that he's on.
excellent. Thank you. That's good to know. Let me see if I can raise my volume because I don't think it's all the way up. Okay. So let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Joe has a flag on his screen. Everybody, okay. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under
under
God,
God, indivisible,
with
with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence for our fallen firefighters throughout the country. Okay. You have all had the minutes. Assuming whether or not there are no changes, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Fitzpatrick, second. Okay.
Seconded.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any changes? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, all in favor. Any opposed? Good. Chief, why don't you walk us through the awards so that we can vote and then deal with awarding.
Okay. So by way of background, it has been our practice, recent practice, to recognize exceptional service as timely as possible. You may recall that in the past we've had award ceremonies that are held and we have not had it. The trouble with that format is years go by before there is a significant number of awards to justify bringing everybody out. And, you know, we have too much time in between the action and the recognition. So as a result, we have, at the recommendation of the Deputy and Lieutenant Smith and the awards committee, has moved this up so it's timely to coincide as closely as possible with the action. There are a number of awards tonight, unit citations and Chief Russell awards for exceptional medical service that we will ask the commission to approve and award. And then some of the firefighters and officers are on the call, but we will make those presentations for the awards and certificates when their companies and the individuals are on duty over the next 2 weeks. In addition to that, you will see in the packet there was a civilian award recommended by a neighbor for 2 civilians that lived across the street from the home on Rowan Street that acted quite appropriately to wake up their neighbors when they discovered a fire that was windswept across the marsh coming in from behind the house and save their lives. Lieutenant Smith chairs the committee, and I want to recognize, the hard work that he does in evaluating all of the calls and recommendations from company officers, and that is the origin of these awards. Company officers or shift commanders recognize extraordinary service, make the recommendation to the committee. It's reviewed by Lieutenant Smith and the committee and the deputy chief, and then developed into the packet that is in front of you. The only other thing that I want to say is we have a a challenge in the fire service of, what constitutes an extraordinary event, and for which members should be recognized. Because many of these calls, tend to seem routine to us. An EMS call is, constitutes a significant percentage of our calls. They are not routine. They're not routine to the residents that receive our services. They are life-saving, and as you read through and as Lieutenant Smith will detail in the presentation, these are folks that, without the intervention of the first responders, in particular the firefighters that responded, these people would not be alive today. And, part of the continuum of care that begins, and we work hard to, have an extraordinary response time, the location of the stations, the staffing of the department is all built around ensuring that we can get people to residents as quickly as possible. And so these aren't routine calls. And certainly the rescue that was done for the folks working in the tree is a result of a lot of training, and all of the training that we do, regardless of what it's on, builds on that teamwork that is so essential to making any one of these calls possible and the rescues possible. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Madam Chairwoman, and Lieutenant Smith, when you're ready, will go through the units themselves.
Oh, great. That's what I was going to do, is call on you or Lieutenant Smith to read each of the awards so that we can then vote on them. So for fellow commissioners, they're going to do the reading, but we will actually have a vote to approve them. Lieutenant Smith, does that work for you?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
You ready to go?
Yes.
Incident number 204478. Early in the evening of July 28th, 2020, the Emergency Communications Center received a call for a patient having a seizure. Engine 1, under the command of Lieutenant Justin Greenhaw, arrived on scene and found the patient in cardiac arrest. Personnel immediately began CPR and prepared the automated external defibrillator and cardiac compression device to deliver advanced pre-hospital life-saving care. Engine 1 administered one shock with the AED, attempting to restore the patient's heart rhythm. American Medical Response arrived on scene as patient care continued. As the units prepared the patient for transport, an additional shock was delivered with the AED. As the patient was moved to the ambulance, spontaneous respirations along with the patient's pulse returned. The patient was transported to St. Vincent's Medical Center for further treatment. After an evaluation at St. Vincent's and 2 additional cardiac arrests, the patient was transferred via LifeStar to Hartford Hospital and placed on advanced life care systems. The patient was then transferred again via LifeStar to Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston for extensive treatment and rehabilitation. After an extended stay in the facility, the patient was released and returned home on September 15th, 2020, awake, alert, and recovering nicely. For their actions at this incident, the following personnel are presented with the David W. Russell Jr. Exceptional Medical Service Award: Lieutenant Justin Greenhaw, Firefighter Justin Crawford, and Firefighter Frank Zwerline. You're muted, Madam Chairwoman.
Continue reading and we'll vote them all at once, please.
Okay. Incident number 208502. In the late evening of December 25th, 2020, the Emergency Communications Center received a call for a lift assist. Engine 3, under the command of Lieutenant Leroy Corbo, arrived on scene to find the patient laying face down with agonal respirations and no pulse. Personnel immediately rolled the patient onto his back and began CPR as the automated external defibrillator and cardiac compression device were prepared to deliver advanced pre-hospital life-saving care. The AED called for no shock. Personnel operated the cardiac compression device and administered high-flow oxygen, via non-rebreather mask until American medical response arrived on scene. The patient's color began to return and improve, and heart rhythm began spontaneously. Engine 3 personnel assisted AMR in the ambulance to the hospital, where the patient had regained consciousness and was speaking upon his arrival. For their actions of this incident, the following personnel are presented with the David W. Russell Jr. Exceptional Medical Service Award: Lieutenant Leroy Corbo, firefighter David Mitkowski, and firefighter Eric Hubble.
Lieutenant Smith, we just lost your audio.
How's that? Got me now?
Yep.
Incident number 207353. In the afternoon of November 7th, 2020, the Emergency Communications Center received a call for a tree worker whose leg had been pinned in a tree approximately 35 to 40 feet above the ground. Car 3, under the command of Assistant Chief George Gamola, arrived on scene and established command. Engine 2 and Ladder 2 arrived on scene and began to set up for a complicated, high-angle rope rescue. Command then special called Engine 3 and Rescue 1 from Fairfield, as well as additional rope rescue assets from the Bridgeport Fire Department. Due to the off-road location, the fire master mechanic was also requested to respond to assist with apparatus placement and setup. Units began an intense high-angle rope rescue utilizing multiple ropes as personnel skillfully and carefully ascended the tree with as little movement as possible as to not to disturb the branch that had pinned the worker, causing further injury. Personnel approached the injured worker and secured him safely with a harness. Secured him safely with a harness prior to attempting to remove him from the tree. Ground crews worked diligently to clear brush from the area, providing access to rescue units and safely securing the scene. Utilizing a higher branch as an anchor point, personnel were able to use additional ropes and pulleys to raise the limb high enough to free the worker's leg. Once the worker was free, he was lowered to the ground via the rope system, where he was given medical care. Incident Commander George Gamola stated in the incident report, this incident was a low-frequency, high-risk operation that requires special skills, training, and knowledge that is only attainable through hard work and diligent practice. The positive outcome of this incident is the direct result of high professionalism demonstrated by all who participated. For their actions at this incident, the following personnel are awarded the unit citation for valor: Assistant Chief George Gamola, Lieutenant Dennis Iannotti, Lieutenant Leroy Corbo, Firefighter Mark Golitz, Firefighter George Heath, Firefighter Brendan Murray, Firefighter Matthew Strebe, Firefighter Eric Hubble, Firefighter Jeffrey Donito, Firefighter Will Malkin, Firefighter Kyle Smith, Firefighter Dominic Cochia, Firefighter Frank Zwerline, Firefighter Richard Bassett, Master Mechanic Richard Demko. Those are the three that I have, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you very much. Incredible work by all. I believe only firefighter Donetto is on today. These will be awarded as the chief indicated. I need a motion to approve. Alex, okay, thank you very much. A second, please.
Second.
Fitzpatrick, I guess. Thank you all for jumping in. I just want to note that I think this is extraordinary effort and you guys make us proud all the time. But I'm glad to recognize sort of the extraordinary effort here. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, all in favor. Chief, before I go beyond, do you want to handle the Chief's Award so we brief the commission on that, please?
Yes, so
Thank
I
you very
will
much,
read-
Lieutenant Smith.
And I also want to say that firefighter Murray is also on. He phoned in. I can see that he's there. And,
Okay.
And there were some members of Station 1 that wanted to be up here, but they just got to run. So that's why they're not
Okay.
up here.
Well, I want to acknowledge those that joined us and greatly express our thanks. And there will be a more formal award in your units from the chief, etc. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much, all of you. As I said, do us proud every single day. Chief, do you want to go with the civilian award,
Yep,
please?
I will. And thank you, Lieutenant Smith, for your work leading the effort. I will read the recognition. We have scheduled a date with hopefully the commission, the first select woman, and if they recipients are available, our target is for presentation on April 21st, late in the afternoon, 4:30 or 5 o'clock. This was for an incident that occurred in the early morning hours of March 13th, 2021. A Ruane Street resident noticed her neighbor's motion light repeatedly activating. Upon further investigation, she noticed heavy smoke and what appeared to be a glow coming from the rear of the neighbor's home. She quickly alerted her husband and activated 911 to summon help. The Emergency Communications Center received a call shortly after midnight reporting a structure fire across the street from the caller's address. Units were quickly dispatched and Engine 1 arrived on the scene 3 minutes after dispatch and reported heavy smoke and fire in the rear of 226 Ruane Street. Prior to the arrival of the fire department units and knowing that their elderly neighbor was not mobile, the caller and her husband crossed the street and began banging on the door of the residence to wake up their sleeping neighbors. As fire units were arriving on scene, the residents were assisted from the home. Shortly after, the residents were escorted from the home. The rear windows of the structure failed, filling the home with toxic smoke and fire. Multiple fire units from Fairfield and with mutual aid from Bridgeport used multiple hand lines to battle the stubborn 2-alarm fire that was wind-driven and extended to a neighbor's house, neighbor's structures on both sides of the fire residence. The fire was declared under control an hour later, and our units remained on the scene until 4:06 a.m. Incident Commander Roger Case stated that in his incident report, that had it not been for the quick action and early notification to the residents by their neighbors, this incident would have a very tragic ending. And for their actions at this incident, as Chief of the Department, I intend to present Mr. Charles Shelley and Mrs. Tare Shelley with the Chief's letter of recognition.
Thank you. Any questions from the commissioner? From the commissions? I also want to extend our thanks to the neighbor who took the time to recognize all of this. Part of what the chief is doing is trying to coordinate so not only the recipients, but the other neighborhood members who are obviously just down the block are able to participate in the recognition when we award it. Anything else we need to cover on this one, Chief?
Nope, that's it. And we will send you notification once I get confirmation for the date. And the 2 dates that we're targeting are the 21st with a backup on the 29th.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. I just want to note in terms of the chairman's report, there are many good things that in your packets that talk about how much we're training, what we're doing. But one that I sort of took note of was that 47 firefighters have gotten, which is almost half the force, have gotten trained as vaccinators for COVID, and I certainly greatly appreciate that effort. And the other thing I want to raise as not a discussion item at this, but because of a news item that occurred today, as we look at development in the town, we probably need to have a conversation at some future meeting, Chief, about water pressure and whether we need to raise red flags relative to certain developments that are showing up or being proposed, and whether we have sufficient water pressure in order for the firefighters to do their jobs. It came up as a factor today in one of the news items where clearly water pressure was part of the problem in putting out the fire. And it occurred to me, as we deal with more and more development, it's probably something we need to articulate and develop a plan for. So I just want to pass that on.
So just to draw it, or to respond to that, we have spent a considerable amount of time working on our water supply plan. If you recall, several years ago, and maybe Lieutenant Smith would have a clearer recollection, of the timing, that it was almost a decade ago, the town, working with Aquarion, extended water mains in areas of the community that were underserved to improve our access to fire hydrants. But is that about 10 years ago? Do you recall?
They did some extensive work up in the Southport area after the large house on Warning Hill Road burned down, and once they put the new development up on Carriage Drive, they extended those hydrants in there. And recently, they've done some work to boost the pressure in that particular area.
Yeah,
And,
it's very much a concern about boosting pressure, not just the extensiveness of where the hydrants are, but as I said, in a recent fire, the lack of pressure. They had to run hoses like 3/4 of a mile and run trucks to run water. So it's a news report today that you can look at, but I think it would be a worthwhile conversation with the commission at some point in the future that works into your schedule, Chief.
So I just wanted to let you know that we have worked with Aquarion and have been identifying where those weak spots are for the fire department. It's more an issue of volume and capacity as opposed to pressure. And because we can make pressure, we just can't make water. So we have worked with them to identify areas of the town where we need additional resources, and they have been extraordinary in their partnership with us. And if you recall, 2 years ago or a year ago, we had a volume issue off of High Street, adjacent to the school, as part of the school project. And the utility extended a water main and made it gridded the service so that we had far more reliable water, solved the problem at the school, but also for the neighborhood. We're currently working with one of the last areas of the community that is inadequate water supply, and that's up Hoydensville, the backside of Smith Richardson Golf Course. And we have just started this week to explore options, given the fact that there may be some federal funding as a result of the pandemic that every community may have access to, looking at our options up there. So it is an issue that we have continuously worked on, Assistant Chief Sherwood in particular, and I'll do is invite him to a future meeting and we can review that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Then we're up to the chief's monthly report.
So a few things in particular for tonight, the budget. We have our budget presentation later on. I have the RTM meeting running in the background, so we make sure that we don't miss our opportunity. But we are late in the RTM agenda for tonight, so I think we'll be okay. We have a budget increase without a salary increase, because as I mentioned in a previous meeting, the contract with the firefighters expires on June 30th, so that contract is under negotiation. So the budget does not include a salary increase. So we have a 1.49% increase in our budget, and it includes the inspector's position to begin on January 1, 2021. And we've had no negative feedback from the Board of, certainly positive feedback from the Board of Selectmen, and a favorable review by the Board of Finance. Hoping and expecting the same will occur tonight with the board, with the RTM. Our capital projects, we do have funding. It's been approved for the two major waterfall projects that we have this current year, the replacement of a fire pumper, as has been our practice to make sure that we are not replacing major equipment every year. So we have a replacement matrix that extends out for another 10 years. because we can forecast when those vehicles, fairly accurately, will need to be replaced. And we've shared with the commission previously our vehicle rotation plan. So we take those vehicles that get the heaviest use, particularly at Station 1 and 2, and make sure that they see service in the slower stations to extend the life of the vehicle. And that process has worked well for us. The other project that is in the capital waterfall is $250,000 for the station exhaust systems and overhead door replacements. And we are receiving estimates for that work. We'll go out to bid, but we're refining our approaches for that through meetings with various vendors, and expect that we'll be able to move forward with that. We're still working on the current year capital project, which is the bathrooms. Due to COVID, we had a long delay in getting the contractor into the building, and then we have and are currently awaiting a asbestos evaluation because of the age of the building, and it's likely that there will be some asbestos remediation that is necessary. I did get cut sheets on fixtures today from the architect, so we're moving forward, and our goal is to have that work during the summertime when there'll be a lot of demolition work that will be needed, and it'll be easier to accommodate during that period. Moving on, the next bullet point, the door hanger project. For those of you who've been on the commission a while, you may remember that we started a program back 2016, 2017. After a residential fire, we canvassed the neighborhood the next day or in the days following. As you could imagine, if there is a fire in your neighbor's house, the anxiety level among families goes up. It could happen to me. And certainly, we see this as a teachable moment, and we have a lot of attention. We do spend a lot of time in other times of the year, and Lieutenant Smith works to make sure that our messaging gets out regarding smoke detectors, change your clocks, change your batteries. But it's when a fire occurs in your neighborhood and that smell, the smoke permeates your home and your thoughts, we feel that it's a good opportunity to drive that message a little bit clearer. So we have a door hanger project that was developed by the department and the fire marshal's office. We canvass the neighborhood and speak to neighbors, answer questions about smoke detectors, placement. If they need smoke detectors, we provide them. And for anybody that we don't reach in that canvassing, we leave this hanger on the door that explains our visit and the availability for advice and resources from the fire department. As the crews went out shortly after the Rowan Street fire and another one on Jennings Road, and the residents are very appreciative of the opportunity to speak to firefighters, ask those questions that they may have or their children may have to relieve some of the anxiety and make sure that they're adequately protected. So that is an important program that we run because it does address those issues that are most urgent for neighbors adjacent to some of our recent fires. And lastly, I have asked the fire marshal to work on a plan. And certainly we have until January of next year, but we want to make sure that when the new inspector comes on board, that we have a solid plan on assignment of duties and responsibilities. There is such a crush of work between the two universities and their major construction projects that will be well underway, the Convocation Center at Fairfield University and the hockey arena. at Sacred Heart, as well as a number of residential projects that require multiple visits, construction progress inspections, that it's easy to get diverted from the day-to-day residential inspections that we built our plan around and justify the addition of the position. So we want to make sure that we are, as the chairwoman reminded me on a very different subject, if you don't measure it, it's not important. And I expect that she'll use that either for me or against me as we move forward. But we want to make sure we're measuring the progress of our inspection duties and evaluating our impact, and ultimately make sure that we are prepared. As you recall, a year ago we were asking for 2 positions. We have a half of a year of 1 position for next year. I think that the information that we'll be collecting as part of that plan will help justify or not additional positions in subsequent years. But we want to make sure that we are collecting the data that we need between now and January so that we can be successful and organized in our approach. So with that, I will conclude my report.
Commissioners, questions? Anybody? Okay, we will go on to the Deputy Commissioner's report.
So within operations, among our notable incidents, we had a dryer fire on Horace Street. Extension was prevented by quick response and action. Birchwood Drive, we had a small little fire, which the same. Actually, I should say about Horace Street dryer fire. Check your dryers each year, pull them out, check behind them, check and see if it's clear. I was giving an address a couple of years ago here to a community group, so I wanted to get some pictures. I pulled mine out, and I was kind of horrified, and so I took pictures and used that to make the pictures go, worth 1,000 words. Yesterday, we had a large brush fire
Chief,
on the west
maybe we could
border.
do a press release on that?
Yeah, we should. Maybe Bobby
With
Smith,
pictures?
and I could do something, yes. I'll give him the pictures I had. So yesterday we had a large brush fire, which many of you might have seen. It put a cloud in the air right at the Fairfield-Westport border on I-95. It also threatened some structures. It came pretty close to some structures in Westport. So both departments responded. There's some pictures on Facebook if you want to see, but there are a lot of dry fuel, including Phragmites, grass chips, and a couple dead trees that we saw. So very quick response on that prevented further damage. In regard to emergency management, I see Norma's on the call, so later she'll tell us about tomorrow's search drill, which we've been working with them on. We just started working on the renewal of Everbridge. We're coming close on our first year of use of Everbridge emergency notification system. And Jen, the admin here, and I are starting to work on the update of our local emergency operations plan, which we have to update every 2 years. In regard to facilities, the chief gave you an update on our capital projects. We're also working on an access control system to increase station security. We've completed Station 1. We're going on to Station 2 within the month, and hopefully the other stations sometime in the summer. The only other thing is the budget. The chief mentioned that we're going to have to jump on the RTM for the RTM budget hearing tonight. So wish us luck, please. Thank you.
Any questions for the deputy chief on his report? I'm seeing no. Okay. Is Southport on to report?
No, Southport said they asked if they could come on next month. They had some technical difficulties or so. So
Okay.
we do have Stratfield.
Yes, I see Jason Privilege on. Okay, we'll go on to Stratfield.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. For those that don't know me, my name is Jason Privilege. I'm Chief of the Stratfield Volunteers out of Station 3. This past year marked 100 years of Stratfield serving the Fairfield community. Unfortunately, we had celebratory plans, but of course the pandemic put those on hold. We currently have about 20 active and social volunteers. For those that don't know, I just wanted to give a rundown of what that entails. Active requirements include a certification at a minimum of Firefighter 1, hazmat operational level, and an EMT certification in 2 years. Additionally, our members also hold certifications such as Firefighter 2, Fire Service Instructor, Fire Safety Officer, Rescue Diver, CPR Instructor, and Red Cross Shelter Management. Just for those that are new to the commission, just a little bit of background about the department itself. While volunteers were once the only fire service in town, we now augment, as you know, a very talented and robust career department. Our members come from all sorts of experiences and careers, such as retired police officers, retired fire marshals, radio communications specialists. We have a town emergency communications dispatcher, career EMTs and paramedics. We have a site director of an armored car service, pest control specialist, social worker, and I'm a PA in emergency medicine. And then we have younger guys that are coming on and still looking to develop their life plans. We've had countless career firefighters that have come from our ranks. We have a rescue truck that once upon a time was actually state of the art, but is now actually about 35 years old. But it has capabilities to supply power, on-site refilling of the air bottles, hydraulic extrication equipment, salvage and overhaul. It's really just a great big toolbox on wheels. Our home is stationed 3 on Jackman Avenue, where we have a very strong relationship with the in-house career firefighters. And traditionally, we used to man the truck each evening and made ourselves available for large events. But unfortunately, as membership has dwindled, that's been harder to do. And while we remain available, we no longer are able to staff the truck 7 nights a week. Our training does consist of OSHA mandated activities such as SCBA familiarity, live fire training, ladders, bloodborne pathogen training, and others that are relevant to our activities, such as CPR recertification, vehicle extrication, familiarity with our equipment, and then keeping up to date with new educational initiatives such as the Stop the Bleed program, updated epinephrine training, and Narcan training. In regard to 2020, our events were pretty limited as the pandemic really curtailed a lot of the things that we normally do. So things we normally would have taken part of would have been the Memorial Day Parade, the half marathon where we run the medical tent and other duties. We also usually have a Halloween open house where we have at least 1,000 children come by. And we also normally help Assistant Chief Gamola with the Day in the Sun event. Despite not being able to do those, however, we were able to at least put 3 new members through Firefighter 1 training, and 2 of them subsequently progressed through Firefighter 2 training, despite the pandemic setbacks. A number of our volunteers have had their COVID-19 vaccination, and we've had approval by the membership to further update the emergency lighting on the rescue. Our budget is really limited to what we can fundraise, usually $10,000 to $12,000 a year, normally via a fundraising letter and a monthly can and bottle collection. And that helps us to purchase updated protective and firefighting equipment. We're very fortunate that the career department mechanic staff is very supportive and works quite hard to keep our rescue going and provides updated equipment as applicable. Just a few challenges I'd like to highlight. Really, membership is one of our big ones, recruitment and retention. There's costs, timing, and locations of required classes that really make it difficult for a new member to come on board. Life isn't what it used to be, and people just don't necessarily have the time to commit as they once did to a volunteer activity. Our equipment, for many years, our rescue has spent weeks to months down with major repairs. Thankfully, knock on wood, not in the last several years. We did attempt to bid on a used apparatus a couple of years ago, but in partnership with the master mechanic, we decided the price was too high when accounting for updates that we had to make. While diligently saving, our funds are actually nowhere near the cost of a replacement at this point, as that cost goes up every year. Updated personal protective equipment is also very expensive. It averages over $2,500 for each firefighter, and also has a 10-year lifespan that we're held to. This past year, we were able to purchase 4 new sets of turnout gear, and we have plans to purchase at least 3 more this coming year. Just a few ideas I'd like to put forward. On the town website, the CERT team is listed there under public safety. It'd be great to list our department as well, just to have another avenue for people to find us to try to join. Maybe some incentives that are very, low financial impact to the town to try to help recruit and retain members, such as a tax abatement, beach and dump passes for our out-of-town members. Maybe considering ways to replace the rescue, as it is a town-owned apparatus. We did actually receive a call from the Stratfield Village Association, who called us about a fundraiser to correspond with 9/11. I understand they actually ended up speaking with Chief McCarthy, so we look forward to hearing more about that, as that may be a great way to also recruit some members. And of course, we're also open to any of the suggestions that anyone may have. That's all. I thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions for the chief, please? Thank you for your report. That was very thorough and helpful, Chief. I appreciate your time and effort, not only tonight, but in general.
Thank you.
Okay. Local 1426, do we have anybody on?
I don't see
Deputy?
them.
Okay. CERT, I think you said Norma was on.
Yes, Norma?
Yes, I am on. So as far as CERT goes, we're continuing to support the meal bus delivery from the senior center to those at home. We continue to support the COVID call center, which is a daily operation. And then, as the deputy mentioned, we are planning an exercise this Saturday. We have about 25 of our members are going to be participating. The premise of this is the scenario is there was a winter storm with high winds, icy conditions, and CERT opened the Ludlow shelter. Power outages have affected some areas, and cell service and internet access is severely impacted. And in order to support the shelter activities, CERT has activated its ham radio group to ensure communications with the EOC and other key resources in town. So we're going to have ham radio operators and other support people from CERT scattered in 5 locations around town, and work on that communications. And that's the end of the report.
Excellent. Commissioners, any questions? Sounds like a good exercise. Thank you very much. Any old business?
Very welcome.
Okay, any new business? Okay, then I think we're up for adjournment. I need a motion.
So motion.
Alex, second. Liam? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? 7:44 is adjournment. Thank you all. The
Thank you,
chief
everyone.
will
Thank you.
notify
Thank you all.
us. What, chief? Yes. Chief will notify us
Sure.
about the Rowan Street. Liam, did you have something to say?
No.
No, okay.
Yep,
Go ahead, chief.
Okay, I will.
Okay. Notify us about the Rowan Street, so those of us who can make it can join. The expectation is that that will be in person, but probably an open hangar event at Station 1.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
it'll be socially distanced and all of that, but to allow the neighbors to gather too.
Yep.
So, okay. Thank you all very much. Good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Dorothea.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.